How's it going, wrestling fans? Thanks for tuning into the Wrestle Report, episode 39 with Phil and Don. I am Phil.
I'm down.
Our second episode of the year 2022. How long do you differentiate things by what they are in the new year? Is it the second? Is it the third? I think some people drag it out way too long. It's like, oh, this is our fourth episode of the new. I think this is where it stops right here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually the second.
I think, and that might even be one too many. I think one is fine, but there are people like, how long into the new year do you tell people Happy New Year too? Like at the store and stuff. I'm thinking like the first or second of the year. Like that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I give you. If I don't see you after January, half of January 15th, but I don't see you after January 15th, I'm not saying Happy New Year to you.
That's a fair cutoff. So like at work, I had like a group that met for the first time in the new year, even though it's been 13 days. And I think that's acceptable. Like I said, after the 15th, that's not even the news anymore.
Yeah.
But speaking of news, there was a lot of wrestling, even a little more than normal within this week. We had a great Impact pay-per-view, which is actually what I'm going to start with. We had Battle of the Belts. So we had some extra AEW noise in there. WWE getting some headlines for all the right reasons for a change. That's pretty cool. So we have all that and more. NXT, Don's going to have to fill us in because I had worked late on Tuesday, and while I caught some of it, did not see the whole thing. And some NXT superstars popped up in what some people would consider a surprising place. But when I explain the reasoning, it makes some sense why they showed up nearby, but in a whole nother element. But yeah, I want to start with Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, which was this past Saturday. I had no plans. I didn't plan my night around watching this, but I was home, I was gaming, and I saw that it was on. So I put it on my second TV. And I got to say, it might only be 2 or 3 times a year, but when Impact does a good show, they do a great show. And I know they're still a little afraid to get a big arena. I'd be shocked if this building had 1,000 people in it, which sometimes those are cool. Those small, intimate crowds, you see highlights of an indie show, people just go and ape shit, but I would say if at best there's 1,000 people at this Hard to Kill event in somewhere in the Dallas, Texas area, but just a really cool show with a lot of interval and different things on it. And the thing that I told Donna about in the first place is they did this thing called Hardcore War, which was essentially war games without the cage. It was a 10-man team, 5-on-5, and every however many minutes somebody else came in and you couldn't end the match, so everybody was in there. And that whole, like I said, war games without the cage. And it was Eddie Edwards, Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Heath, former Heath Slater, and Rhino against the Good Brothers, Eric Young, Diener, and Joe Doring. I know those last two may not be familiar to everybody, but Don, I know you saw some highlights on this. At least a pretty cool idea, really, to everyone's doing a war games thing. If you throw a cage on it, it's obvious that you're copying. It's let me borrow your homework and I'll change some answers so it looks like I did it a little bit, right? But just a cool idea, way to put your own. And this is the same place that's done Ultimate X matches, which there was one on this show with the women. They tore the house down. The King of the Mountain match, which they haven't done in years, but the reverse ladder match. Impact / TNA has never been afraid to try these unique stipulations, and I think this one they knocked it out of the park, I gotta say.
Yeah, I actually went back, like you said, I went back to see it, and a hell of a match, man. I'm a big fan of Rich Swann. I loved him when he was with WWE. Mm-hmm. So I saw some familiar faces, some people that I really didn't know, but I got to know actually when I was actually watching it.
Right.
So yeah, man, thumbs up.
That's a lot of things with Impact. There's enough, almost every match is gonna have somebody and then maybe someone that you don't. You're oh, what's this guy's story? This guy or girl, really, because their women's division is pretty good too. Yeah, there was a good mixture of people in there. A guy that I've become a huge fan of when I do watch Impact is Eddie Edwards. He used to be a part of the American Wolves tag team, and I never expected him to. Davey Richards was his partner. He kind of retired early. He's actually come out of retirement recently. But when that happened, everybody kind of thought, when an indie tag team breaks up, the chances of a guy having a second, phase of his career is not very likely. And he's truly become the Johnny Gargano / Sami Zayn, heart of Impact Wrestling is a nickname that he has now. And when he was in the tag team, he was very he was a scrawnier dude, a quicker guy. And, over the years, he's put on some weight, some muscle too. I'm not saying he's out of shape, but he's you've seen him grow from a kid to a man in Impact Wrestling. And it's been really cool to see. He's been Impact champion a couple times, and for him to lead his team against, the Good Brothers and Eric Young and all those guys was definitely really cool to see. I mentioned the Ultimate X match, which they have not had in a long time, and they mixed it up and they had a women's match for the first time, which was pretty cool. And Tasha Steele won that. Couple like Chelsea Green was in it, Rosemary was in it, Lady Frost, if you're familiar with NWA, and then some other people you might not be familiar with, like Alicia Edwards. Definitely some cool stuff in there. They had a Ring of Honor world title match on here, which, I mean, if you told me before the year, even before Ring of Honor, broke their news that a Ring of Honor title match was going to be on Impact Wrestling, I would have told you you're crazy. Vice versa too. Like Impact title doesn't show up there. And they had Jonathan Gresham against Chris Sabin, who, is a very good wrestler. He can wrestle anybody. They had Josh Alexander he goes by Jonah now, the former Bronson Reed, for the X Division title. So Bronson Reed's in Impact now, which I think is a great pickup for them. I think he can do a lot of damage there for sure.
Oh yeah, man. I was a big fan of Bronson Reed when he was in NXT. So I'm happy to see he's on his feet. And I was upset when WWE released him because I felt like he was just like 2 months before he was the North American champion.
Right. And like, it's perfect. I wouldn't have been hurt if he won this match. Trey Miguel they're kind of running with as wait, do I have this right? Josh Alexander, excuse me. He's was the X Division champion. He just went for he's really like their number 2 guy. He's like the second backbone of the company. So like to come right into the company and face it's like joining the WWE roster and facing like a Randy Orton or a Sheamus right away. Like clearly they trust you. They're going to put you in with one of their big name guys. But yeah, he was one of the more shocking releases because like you look at him, it's like, no, that's a WWE guy. Like they're going to have 1.5 million things to do with him. Like next to like Braun Strowman, which, we know his fate as well, which he showed up in Ring of Honor recently, but he looked like the ultimate WWE guy for this. So for him to get released was definitely crazy. The last thing I want to talk about with this, we'll mention briefly, Moose retained the Impact World title against Matt Cardona and W. Morrissey, the former Big Cass. And this was something special. I got to be honest, this was so good that I thought it was the main event and I turned it off. And then I didn't realize the Texas Death Match for the women's title. I was on Twitter and I saw how I was like, oh, he put that stream back on. So the match was good enough that I was like, oh, great pay-per-view, great show. Mickie James beat Deonna Purrazzo in the Texas Death Match as well. And like, it was a little weird. So you had Hardcore War, you had the 3-way match, and like wrestling is kind of the new universal rule is, triple threat matches are no DQ. So you had Hardcore War, a no DQ triple threat, and a Texas Death Match 3 in a row. And they kind of hit you over the head with the hardcore stuff. And I like hardcore wrestling, don't get me wrong. But like the Jonathan Gresham, Chris Sabian match could have been a palate cleanser. The Josh Alexander, Jonah, as he's going by now, could have been, a palate cleanser for that. I think they kind of like, they started with the wrestling and they really amped it up. And I get like making it feel like a dial that like the later into the show, the crazier it gets. But like, that would be my one criticism is like, once you went into hardcore mode, you just like, flew through the cornfield with it. That'd be my one criticism. But overall, great show. Impact does this 2 to 3 times a year where like they just have a show that like where they're getting some stuff done over there. And it's good to see because Hard to Kill is a very fitting name for a pay-per-view for them too, because they have persevered through everything, through releases, through channel changes and everything. In a week that had a lot of wrestling, I said even extra. I think they won the week. They put out the best show of the week, which is not something that happens often, but when they do it great.
Yeah, I second that too. And good for Impact. Good for Impact.
Yeah, like you said, it happens a couple times a year. So whenever it does, I do like to give them their flowers about it for sure. Quick little note, I usually do NWA at the end, but I do want to throw out there that NWA has started airing their shows on YouTube, like I was talking about last week. And they debuted their new show, NWA USA, which is going to have the junior heavyweight title and the national championship is basically the 2 titles on there. So they're doing a tournament for the junior heavyweight title, and they had the first couple matches in that tournament. And they had Luke Hawk against his son, PJ Hawk, and the first ever, like in NWA history, they're calling it father and son match, which is very cool. A lot of people actually know Luke Hawk, not even just from his work in the ring. Basically, any wrestling movie or TV show that's been out, he's been the stunt coordinator for it. Like he worked on that show Heels. And if you remember that movie, The Wrestler, with, Mickey Rourke and everything, like any movie that involved wrestling, he's usually the guy that Hollywood turns to So like, how do we make wrestling look as it should in a movie setting? So he's almost more known for his stunt work than his in-ring work, but for him to wrestle his son was actually pretty cool. And like I said, I'd recommend watching NWA USA. It was only a half hour this week. I don't know if that's going to be like just going to be a quick like 2-3 matches, and that's your secondary show. It might be an hour down the line, but Saturdays at noon is NWA USA. So I would definitely check out this past week. I don't think I mentioned who won. I might have just said that. I might have ruined that one match, but there's other matches on this one show. Go check it out. NWA USA and NWA Power is going to be, if you pay for it, you can get it on Tuesday. And if you want the free version, they put it on YouTube on Friday. So NWA is not free to the public. They're going to have some good matches on there. They're getting back into their own too. Matt Cardona's on that show going after the world title. So if you like Matt Cardona, he's everywhere right now. He's an early contender for Wrestler of the Year, I think, because we just got all those awards. Kenny Omega won it for last year, as he should, being the belt collector and everything. But yeah, Matt Cardona definitely wanting to, he just wrestled for the Impact World title in this, and he's going for the NWA title over here. So he's going to win some gold by the end of like February at the rate he's going. He wants to win something. Let's jump in. Do you want to do NXT first? I think I've talked a lot. I think I'm gonna shift it over to you. Like I said, I watched some of NXT this week. I was working, so I only caught a little bit of it. So, give me some of the bullet points. What did we watch? What did we see this week on NXT?
All right. So he had AJ Styles versus Grayson Waller. I thought this was a good match. I was kind of shocked that they had AJ Styles go over on this match, but he also had Grayson Waller look good in this match, look good in the defeat. So I'm not too upset about the decision. You also had Braun Breaker basically challenge anyone in the back. No one came out. He walked back. Then Santos Escobar came out. That was pretty cool. I would love to see that match, Santos versus Braun Breaker.
Yeah,
sign me up for that. Carello Hayes came out. He was talking about because last time he was out there, he won they unified the championships.
Did he just have the one belt?
Yeah, man. I was like,
damn, milked that a little bit. They could have milked that a little bit, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, he just had the North American title. And I say I would have been okay if they like actually made it like North American cruiserweight title type shit.
Or if they just officially retired the belt, like he puts it in the case and hands it off to somebody, or make it a big. Like it was a big deal, so make it a big deal. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. But I thought this was pretty cool because as he was leaving, AJ Styles came out for his match. So I was like, okay, can I get AJ Styles versus Carello Hayes, please? Yeah. Please.
So just to back you up for a second, do you think the Waller AJ stuff is over? Like I didn't see it, so like
I think
like this is okay. That's interesting.
I think that's it because after the match, LA Knight came back.
I did see that. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, LA Knight came back, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a match between LA Knight versus Grayson Waller finally. And I'm okay with that too because I like both competitors.
Yeah.
They had a play-in for the Dusty Classics with Rich Harlan, Harlan and Joe Gacy versus Malik Blake, and I'm not even gonna try to say his name.
I was gonna say I was not even just seeing the highlights. I was not familiar with the team that they went up against. So
he was a newer guy. I believe when we went, he debuted.
Okay.
I think he went against Sokoa. We went.
Oh, that guy. Okay. Yep. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yes.
He looked like the lost like Street Profit. Like he would have fit right.
Yeah.
The way they did his package and everything.
Yeah. He made it look like because he was. I guess he's from South Central and basically talking about his come up and stuff.
Yeah, the champion of the streets or whatever they call it. Okay, so I know what you're talking about
now. Rich Harlan. Why am I calling him Rich Harlan? Harlan got DQ'd for whooping Malik's ass. He whooped his ass, and I guess I'm cool with it because I can understand why they did it because it was bad.
I mean, I saw the tweet that they were going to be in the match. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That maybe they like make some noise in the tournament. And then I saw that they won by DQ. And like, I don't think their whole story really fits them being a team necessarily. Yeah. So really, I thought that was some good writing because like these new guys, they get a win without beating anybody. and it continued. It really was good business for everyone. Like I was mad initially, like, oh, come on, you can't give these guys like put them in the tournament first, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, that's actually some good business all around.
Yeah, and it also brought these guys up because now they're in the Dusty Classic, and I would like to see them go far because I think both of them are really talented.
Is the bracket out yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, I was gonna look that up. Maybe I'm sure by next week.
Yeah, it's supposed the first next week apparently.
Okay, cool.
What else we had? Oh, Wendy Chu finally debuted. I don't know if you remember who she is. She was actually she was with Boa and the one with the she was face painted and everything at first.
Okay.
Now she's like playing like a sleepy character. But she was wrestling in pajamas. I thought that was pretty cool.
Huh,
she had like these bunny footies and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. She gives me a lot of Orange Cassidy vibes.
I seen that's what they're going with that, like a female Orange Cassidy. I will bet like one beer that by the end of this like first half of the year, she's gonna interact or straight up be with Jacket Time. Just by hearing you describe her, I could see that going.
But I think she has some good offense in there, and like I thought that was pretty cool. It was her Persha and Indy Hartwell versus Casey, Kaden Carter, and I can't remember her name, the Bubbles girl.
Okay. Was this okay? This didn't have anything to do with the Dusty Classic, right? Because they're doing a women.
No, yeah, it was just a 3 women's or 6 woman tag team. Now I know they like a couple weeks ago they was talking about, or last week they was beefing because they wanted who's gonna be in the Dusty Classic. So that was basically it for that.
Gotcha.
And that's basically it. I mean, you had Boa versus Sokoa. That was a pretty good match. It ended in a double count out, and they brawled outside. Santos Escobar versus Zaya Quinn. For basically it was I'm tripping. Pete Dunne versus Tony D'Angelo.
That's right.
Night.
Okay.
That was match of the night right there for me.
So I have a theory on D'Angelo, and I was looking for a reason to bring this up. You know how we were talking about Hook a couple weeks ago? People were like cheering for Hook, like ironically, and then he stepped in the ring and it wasn't ironic anymore. That's Tony D'Angelo to me. Like his character is not quite fleshed out enough. It's still a little too cheesy for my liking, but like to go head to head with someone like Pete Dunne in the, what was it? Like, steel pipe on a pole, crowbar on a pole, like that. But I saw highlights of this too, and like if they make him just a tad, I don't mind him being a little jokester-ish, like he's gonna have that attitude, but if they make him a little more serious, I think they really do actually have someone with him.
Oh yeah, man. He's definitely playing the character the right way. But yeah, man, that was basically NXT in a nutshell. Not a bad show. I would recommend a couple matches to watch.
Yeah, I did catch most of the Pete Dunne D'Angelo match. I do want to go back and watch Waller AJ Styles like uninterrupted because I'm curious how that goes. The one more note on Tony D'Angelo, and I didn't know this because like while I follow almost every sport under the sun, I'm not a knowledgeable hockey fan. And apparently there's a guy named Tony D'Angelo that's in the NHL that has like a not great past. I don't know if it was sexual harassment. I don't want to speculate. I'm sure some hockey fan that's listening is like, no, you idiot, it's this. When you Google the name, the hockey player still comes up 9 times out of 10. So if they're gonna, eventually he's just gonna be like Angelo here, or I don't think he's gonna be just Tony. I don't think they'd go that basic with it, but they're gonna lop off his first name eventually. So
I wouldn't be surprised.
So other cool little just nugget of information here about NXT. I was watching UCF basketball yesterday. They're playing Memphis. They won, by the way, which that's always a tough game for me because Penny Hardaway is Memphis's coach, and he's my favorite basketball player of all time. But anyway, I'm watching the game, and then on halftime, they show Parker Boudreaux, Harlan, and he's there, and they took a picture of him. And then I look in the background, and I'm like, Von Wagner, the former Kyle Bloom, former UCF tight end, is there too. They didn't even mention him, which I felt bad for. Like he's right. Like if I'm Harlan, like the belt is Von Wagner, Kyle Bloom, and they didn't even mention him. They mentioned like Harlan and other NXT superstars. And then I look deeper in the photo. I don't know if you noticed, Carmelo Hayes is there too, which, I mean, the other two guys make sense because they went to UCF, but Carmelo, he even he's like, hey, no, thanks for, setting us up and putting us courtside. And he's like rocking a Bulls jacket, which I think he's from Chicago or Illinois or somewhere. But it was just cool. Randomly, like, they've had NXT night and UCF basketball for the past couple of years. They'll pick like one night that they have like an autograph signing. And it's interesting. They're still like, granted, it's because these guys are former UCF athletes, but to like bring Carmelo too and have them like tweet back and forth about it was pretty cool. And it's interesting because Revolution for AEW is going to be in that very arena. So clearly UCF is playing both sides, and it's just an arena. They're going to use both arenas, but you figured with them being right down the road, they'd want to like stake that out as their turf. I think that would be the CFE arena where UCF plays basketball. AEW Revolution is going to be there, but that would be a great place to like, if they still do takeovers for NXT, like it's right down the road. It's still like 12,000 people would fit in that thing for a wrestling show anyway. And it's like, it'd be a modest version of a takeover crowd. I think that would be really cool for them to do that eventually.
Yeah, that would be dope to do.
But I did feel bad for Vaughn that he doesn't, like, he's at his alma mater. Granted, he was not a star the way Parker Boudreaux was, but like, come on, he did play there and everything. So I thought that was kind of funny. So it was cool seeing them there. I did not expect that. NXT was on Tuesday. This was on a Wednesday, so it was pretty cool that was there. And
I'm sorry, I got one more thing about NXT. Gable Stevenson.
Yeah.
His brother actually fought on Tuesday as well. He fought Cameron Grimes. That was pretty cool.
Oh, interesting.
And it's funny because they referenced Gable Stevenson because he went to the same school as Gable, but they didn't reference him as his brother.
What's his name? Do you remember?
Damian Kemp.
Okay, so they're not. They gave him a ring name basically. They're not calling him, Bob Stevenson or whatever.
Yeah, they're not. I forgot what his name was. His actual name.
I mean, it's got to be something Stevenson, right?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I did not know that. So now when I see this guy, I'll at least know where he came from. So good note on that too. But yeah, so NXT had a bang up show, and they made a little headlines on Wednesday, like that was like 7:30 or so. Then 8:00 rolls around. It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? We had AEW, and we actually got to talk about prior to this week. We did have Battle of the Belts on Saturday with a little bit of a twist. Cody had some, I don't know that he got COVID, but I think it was like a contract tracing thing. And like these days when it's just that, you're back in like 5 to 10 days in most places right now. But so basically they had to do an interim TNT championship match with Sammy Guevara, who was going to be in the match, and they replaced Cody with Dustin, which I thought was very cool because we don't see Dustin wrestle much anymore. And he proved, like he does every time he goes out there, that he still got it. The match was fantastic. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Sammy won, which you kind of expected, but like by the time that match was rolling, people wanted Dustin to win. They wanted a Cody Dustin rematch for like that. I mean, that's something I hope we get still one day. I want them to go on a true team run in AEW. I think that's, in my opinion, the only thing that can turn Cody fully face again is teaming with his brother for the long haul. I think that would be pretty cool. But a lot of people were upset about the interim thing. And some people were pretending that like they didn't understand the interim concept. Like the UFC hasn't been doing it for 3 decades or anything. Like, so those people I disregard. Like, it's pretty obvious what an interim champion is. But the concept of implementing it here, I don't think they would have done that if this wasn't on a show called Battle of the Belts. If this was just on Rampage or Dynamite, they would probably just push the match back, right? They did. Yep. They had to do it with the WWE had to do this with the biggest match of their calendar year with Roman and Brock. They had to push it back. I mean, nobody blamed them, right? Roman got COVID or was, whatever it was. So I don't blame them for doing this. They were backed into a corner, in my opinion, for the show being Battle of the Belts. But I don't know if you agree with that sentiment. But before you even tell me, what's your idea of interim champs in wrestling in the first place?
I mean, sometimes you gotta have it because it's wrestling. Wrestling is you never know what could happen.
Yeah,
you can do a backflip, land on your neck.
Yeah, Lance Archer style.
Yeah, but so like I really didn't care for it. Like I understand it, but my thing is like if it was like like a big time injury, he was gonna be out for months.
Yeah.
Then yes, I could understand the interim championship. But when he's out for like a week or so,
he's coming back next week.
He's coming
So
back Wednesday. Yeah.
he'll be back for it'd be like 16 days by the end of it, something like that.
So I can like I'm not a big fan of it just for this situation, just because like I said, he's coming back. Now if he was out for months and months, then yeah, I can understand like Sami Zayn, when Sami Zayn went home with COVID or because of COVID.
Yeah. Travel restrictions, basically.
Yeah. Yes. They had the interim
IC champ.
IC championship.
And so I was thinking NXT had to do it with the cruiserweight title for a similar reason, right? And that worked out. So I think we're both almost in agreement here. The concept of it, when used correctly, is fine. If you like, that is how you have to do it. The difference with this is I don't think they'd even consider it if it was a battle of the belts. I think you still have that match. If this was on Rampage and Cody couldn't be there, just send Dustin out there. Let him have a barn burner. And it'll just lead up to Cody being back. Yeah. So like some people were upset about it. I think if that show is called anything else, they don't even bother doing this.
And I felt like also they should have had at least another title match in that whole, because it was an hour, right? It
was an hour, and they had three matches. One was the FTW title, so that's either matters to you or it doesn't.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so it was the women's match. It was that, and it was FTW title. Which who was it? Was it Dante? No. Oh no, it was Ricky Starks against Matt Sydal, because they're feuding with Dante Martin. He's like, it took you 3 times to beat Matt Sydal. I'm going to beat him on my first try. That was the whole setup of that, which, okay, not bad. I agree. This is the first time they've done the Battle of the Belts thing, right? They're going to do 3 more this year. I was kind of okay with it being an hour, because if you just give me like 3 really good matches or 4 pretty good matches, and then it's like, okay, see you, bye. It's like, wow, what a fun hour, right? Like I'm kind of okay with that. Rampage is that way sometimes. And because of that, like I watched Dynamite this week, and they had a lot of crazy stuff in this Dynamite last night. And it was like, we're an hour in and it felt like 2 hours had already went by because they had crammed so much into it. So when you have a bunch of hour programming and then you go back to Dynamite, which is 2, it makes it feel that much more special, in my opinion. So, I mean, the concept is clearly they've stated that, it's going to be all title matches, which the original Battle of the Belts, they had some non-championship matches on there. It was predominantly that. So it's basically their Night of Champions, which I'm cool with, which WWE has even slacked on. Like they've had non-title matches on Night of Champions, in the past, couple years or whatever. But they got 3 more. This was like a solid C+, I think, given that they had that hurdle to jump over. And the way I look at it, they got 3 more times this year to get it right. And I'm confident that they will.
Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Now, do you think they're going to do it like after every pay-per-view, or because since there's only 4 altogether?
Maybe it's quarterly. So yeah, I would imagine that would line up pretty good. Like, pay-per-view 2-3 weeks later, boom, Battle of the Belts. So I don't know if the dates are like set already, but I wouldn't, or if you kind of like you map out the 4 months that have pay-per-views and then stick the Battle of the Belts in 4 months that don't, then you have at least 8 special shows throughout the year, which kind of fits what you were saying the other week about like maybe bump up the pay-per-views a little bit. This sort of does that. I don't think anyone will mistake one of these for a pay-per-view, but it at least gives you like some cool weekend viewing, I think.
Yeah. A pay-per-view atmosphere. Yeah.
So while we're talking about things that didn't quite hit the mark, people probably consider me being like an AEW apologist and stuff, but like one thing I did not really like this week was something I was looking forward to going into it, which was CM Punk versus Wardlow. And I was cool with like 90% of this, the Powerbomb Symphony to Punk. Like every time he picked up Punk, I'm like, all right, this is the one he's going to reverse. And then he didn't. And I'm like, oh, no, okay, no, no, he's down again. Like that went on, which I think is what you were supposed to feel. Like whenever you're like in tune with that, the part that got me though was, looked like he was going to beat him. Not only beat him, looked like he was going to squash him. MJF says, take your foot off him, powerbomb some more, yada, yada. When he went through the table, I'm like, perfect. They're going to DQ Wardlow. It's MJF's fault that Wardlow doesn't beat CM Punk. And then they just kept going. I'm like, he just He just put him through a table. Why do we, Aubrey? What do you like? I like Aubrey, but what are you doing, girl? Like, that's where it went downhill for me. Like the small, like I'm even okay with the inside cradle because that's different than a roll up. WWE has effectively killed roll ups with the 24/7 title and stuff. So at least it was a true small cradle that looked like it was difficult to get out of. It had nothing to do with being knocked out or anything. Like the move that he used, and Punk's smart, he knows what he's doing. Like that looked like a true move that was just difficult to kick out of, and especially this fairly young wrestler Wardlow. Not really like if you watch collegiate or high school wrestling, when a guy gets pinned, it's not because he got like his clock cleaned. It's because he's in a hold that he cannot get his shoulders off the mat. You know, and that's basically what this was. So while that part of it made sense, I couldn't get past the part of like there was a DQ right there. He put him through a table. It reminds me of like in the video games, in WWE video games, if you take a table out from under the ring and slam someone, you get DQ'd. But if you put him through the announce table, you don't for some reason. So that's exactly what it reminded me of. So I liked a lot of this storytelling, but it just really took me out of it that it wasn't DQ. And they don't do a lot of DQs. So they're very impactful in AEW.
I think last week was the first one.
It was so I think overall in their 3-year history, that was like the third. That was truly the third. So this would have been the fourth, and that would have been fine. And, you know, just that I couldn't get past that part of it. I am interested. I do love how MJF says, oh, I'm going to give everyone what they wanted to see. We're going to get Punk versus Shawn Spears. I think they should have flipped this. They should have gave us Spears first, let him destroy Spears, and then do the Wardlow thing. I think they did this a little bit out of order. But that part of it's just my opinion. Obviously, we planted the seed that Wardlow will eventually he was ready to turn on him right then, and then Spears comes in, his accountability buddy, you know, and played peacemaker. So like this this could have been like a grand slam, and this was like you got to first like barely, you know, like you had to look at the replay and he got there before he touched the bag or whatever. This could have been great. It ended up being passable.
Now see, I feel the same way about the going through the table and everything. But what killed me was, of course, the count. When Aubrey Edwards is counting, and she looks like she's taking her time because it took CM Punk at least like a whole minute to finally get himself together to crawl towards the ring. So that a little more
took me off. I agree with you. I was a little more forgiving of that because when like MJF would come over and start like talking shit, Aubrey would stop counting and be like, no, get back or whatever, and then go back to it. So at least she had a reason to take forever. It still probably took too long, even including that, but like there was something to look to at this, you know? Okay. But no, I mean that the whole, I think they could have sped some, and granted, this needs to go a certain amount of time. You don't want to like go too fast and miss the moment. But the count out obviously wouldn't have been that effective. And Punk still gets the win. And I mean, it's not like Punk can't lose eventually. Like Daniel Bryan just lost. He had 2 ties before that. He's probably like 5-2-1 or whatever, 6-2-1. So I think the DQ would have been a little more powerful if they're really wanting him to be undefeated. Plus, I mean, CM Punk cost MJF his first loss of 2022. So if anything, they would just be getting even a little bit.
Yeah. Both of them in 0-1. Yeah. I would have been cool with that.
Right.
And also, this storyline remind me too much of the Chris Jericho versus MJF. Because Chris Jericho had to go through all these people to get to MJF, and I feel like they're recycling that whole feud with this.
Yeah, I mean they're not pulling people from like Punk's past or anything, but I agree with like, oh no, you got to fight Wardlow, you got to fight and really if you remember they did this with Cody too. He had to take the 10 lashes and beat Wardlow in the cage. So it's truly, maybe it's just his thing, like to even get your hands on me, you got to do all this stuff, and it's been slightly different. They're not the exact same thing, but they're way too similar if you're not trying to make that his thing.
Yeah.
But that was the big thing of the night, I would say. But this show had a lot of matches. This is probably the most like per match capita on a Dynamite. I think there was like 8 matches total. That's like 4 an hour, like plus promos and other things thrown in there. We got the whole thing with Adam Cole's out there with the Bucks and Red Dragon, and they beat up the Best Friends, and Adam Cole leans in to get the kiss from the Bucks, and Britt Baker had showed up, and they're on TV together, which was really cool because we all knew they were together. And it's like, I'll be careful how I say this because I don't want this to come off creepy or anything, but like when they finally did kiss, I was like, wow, that's a legit kiss. And it makes you realize all the not legit kisses you see in wrestling all the time. And I know this is a real couple that has been together for years. It's not Lita and Edge. I know they were kind of together, and like Lita and Kane and Trish Stratus and The Rock and like all these like forced things that they've done over the Dexter Loomis and Mandy, right? Like Indy, yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is at least real, and that part of it was cool. And like, I don't think they're gonna be inseparable from now on, but at least I was happy that they acknowledged, yes, these people are together, and if the Elite comes into a group that has a girl in it, Britt Baker's gonna be there to like take that girl out. So I think this was really well done.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool too. To be honest, when I saw Statlander coming out with the Best Friends,
yeah,
I seen it coming.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh, where's Britt Baker? Because I know Adam Cole's not gonna strike.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So I mean, but I'm cool with it. I'm definitely cool with it because they're both talented wrestlers, and I guess next week we're getting Orange Cassidy and Statlander versus Britt Baker and
Adam Cole. Yeah.
And Adam Cole.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, that's gonna.
But can we please end this feud? Please.
Yeah. This has to do it, right?
Yes, I hope so.
I mean, getting Cole and Britt on TV together is worth dragging it out a little bit more, but yeah, this better be it. I'm with you 100%.
Now I can also see them doing like the Red Dragon versus Trent and.
Sure. Yeah, you can do that.
I'm cool with that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But after that, that's it. No more.
But the Cole and Cassidy part needs to be done for sure. No doubt about it. No other couple debut and a return. We got Brody King on joining Aleister Black to the House of Black or whatever. Brody King, I've only seen a little bit of. I've seen him teaming with Aleister Black and PWG, and then I've seen them in Ring of Honor and stuff. I have no issue with this whatsoever, but I was a little surprised that they kept him as Brody King. And I had no issue with it. He's been Brody King as long as Brody Lee's been Brody Lee. So there's no like this. Those guys were probably really tight from indie wrestling and stuff. But like, I don't know what you would have changed it to. Either it would have been something King, but I'm just the thought crossed my mind about maybe.
Yeah, I see what you're coming from. When they say Brody King, I was like, okay, so they're not gonna change it, okay.
Right? Which I mean, I'm okay with it, but I think eventually like. It's just going to be another guy on the roster, and that's fine that way. But and the way they tease us was perfect. Aleister Black's getting beat up. He's like, "Oh, there's 3 of you," and then he shows up, and that whole thing. And he did a promo last week that ended with "You're so much more than a king" or something, and that was for the people that knew, that was the plan. Here's my thing. Here's my theory too. They did that really cool promo with Pac, and he was like blindfolded.
I was thinking the same thing, bro. I was gonna say the same shit, bro.
You thinking House of Black too? He's gonna
yes, bro.
Because they need a third person, and if it's not Bray Wyatt, if it's not Wyndham, it's got to be Pac for sure.
Now the thing is, he's gonna be going against his old partners in
the Lucha Bros.
Ray Phoenix. Well,
Ray Phoenix is hurt. Obviously, he's gonna be out for a while. Penta's kind of aligning with the Varsity Blondes because like they kind of had his back for a minute. And like the concept of the Death Triangle was really cool. But if we can be honest with ourselves, they didn't accomplish a whole lot. They were rarely all 3 there at the same time because there was always travel issues with one of them. That's going to happen when 2 come from Mexico and 1 comes from England, right? Like that's just like it was unavoidable in the times that we live in. So I don't know if that's going to come up. It's like, no, we set out to change stuff and we didn't do anything. We accomplished. You guys won the titles. What did that get me? Like, I don't know if they'll go that route or whatever. But yeah,
I do have one gripe about the if you're right about the whole Phoenix going with not Phoenix, Penta going with
Oh, with the
with
Blondes.
the varsity Blondes.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one gripe about that. I feel like they've been bouncing around team by team by team, because if you think about it, they was both with Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
At one point.
I don't think it'll be long lived. I think it'll be to have this match with the that just a one. I don't think it's a forever thing. I would agree.
I hope
they were with Eddie Kingston, then the Death Triangle. Death Triangle started, then Eddie Kingston, then Death Triangle came back, then they were in the family with Eddie Kingston. I think they even got loaned out to the Matt Hardy family for a minute there too. Matt Hardy got a match on TV too. While I bring him, made sense. They were in North Carolina. It was a solid match for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I think it'll be Penta and the Varsity Blondes against the House of Black, and then Pac will come, and you'll think he's there to back them up, but he's really with the House of Black. I think that's definitely where this is going, because he's like, I might be blind, but I can see, and like it's gonna fit perfectly in this. And if it's not him, it's got to be Wyndham. It's got to be Bray Wyatt, and like, for whatever reason, Tony Khan has done a good job of like not like, he's usually, he can't help himself when he signs somebody, but whenever Bray Wyatt comes up, he's like, yeah, haven't really talked to him. Like, Bray's a great wrestler and everything, but no, we haven't really talked a whole lot. And like, he doesn't act that way about any other of these signings, So maybe there's a reason. Maybe he's just taking time off. Like, he's probably pretty creatively drained when he tried to pull all this stuff out, that didn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So we did have that cool debut, and then we had the return of Lance Archer, and it looks like he's going straight after Adam Page in the world title, which the match itself is going to be okay, but how many big matches have we seen Archer lose already?
I was saying that. I was thinking that, and I would rather him get some wins up before he goes straight after the title.
I mean, he's probably going to get some wins in the lead up to this, obviously. But yeah, it's not the same. Like, if he didn't beat Moxley in the Texas death match for the IWGP US title when they did that a couple months back before he got injured, like, I don't know that he'd had a big match and they did that in Texas, his hometown. Like, Moxley did him right. And then he went right to Japan just to drop the belt to who, I forget who he even dropped it to. But yeah, I like Archer a lot. They've kind of dropped the ball with him in that respect. I don't even think he'll have Jake with him right now because of the way COVID is, which is fine. Like, COVID brought him in. So, or I'm sorry, Jake brought him in. So, like, if he comes back down the line, like, it'll still make sense.
I think he's going to align with Dan Lambert.
I hope not, man. That would suck. I get what you're saying, because he was going to beat him up this week, and he's like, no, there's the champ's right there. Like, now's your chance. I was like, oh, you're kind of right. And then he like took him out. And because Lambert like left the ring, he didn't like, haha, here's my new guy signing or whatever. So it could definitely happen, but I hope not, for sure. So that's AEW. Like I said, this is the most like per match show I think they've ever done. So a lot of stuff, a lot of good, a lot of okay, a lot of, throw it out and try it again. But there's, so many moving parts here that, I'm definitely looking forward to. Rampage tomorrow. We got some good matches on there. And then, just picking the week back up. Before we get out of here, we are going to talk a little bit of WWE news. I'm going to start with like the least impactful up to the most impactful. So first of all, congratulations for the Alpha Academy for winning the Raw Tag Team titles. Thought that was pretty cool. I was surprised that RK Bro, because that's like the leading thing on Raw right now.
Yep. Well, other than Brock Lesnar now.
Yeah, but he's
leading up to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always going on. Brock's always doing something. So this is like the true like full-time roster guy doing stuff. But and it's Royal Rumble season. We talked about that a little bit last week. We're getting a little closer to it, so we're going to talk a little bit more about it. Call me crazy, and you can if you want, but this only adds to it. Them losing the titles. The Royal Rumble's in St. Louis, Missouri. You know where Randy Orton's from? St. Louis, Missouri. If they want to guarantee the Royal Rumble winner to get a pop for a change, right now, I don't know that you could talk me out of picking. If I had to pick right now, I would pick Randy Orton. That's just me personally.
I feel you.
Yeah.
But I always think about like WWE doesn't do their home, like,
I agree with you.
Someone from the hometown,
yeah,
they don't do them right.
But they would do it for Orton. I think that's still.
I think so too.
That's the thing. That's the only thing.
Because he's freaking Orton, man.
Yeah, exactly. So you're right. They're not like AEW where they go out of their way to be like, oh, you're from here. We're going to showcase you or whatever. Like they definitely don't do it like that. But like if they were ever going to do it, it would be for him, I think.
Yeah.
Bring his, his family like in the front row and stuff. I was gonna say Bob. Like I hate to maybe I gotta Google this. Is Bob Orton still with us? I think so.
Yeah,
right?
he is.
Okay. I don't know why
his
grandfather's no longer with us. That's what it is. All right, cool. But yeah, I could see them being in the front row and all that stuff. But you never know. That's still a few weeks away. But really, before we talk about the other Royal Rumble news, there's been rumors. I don't know if they're straight up reports or if they're rumors that Corey Graves is eyeing an in-ring return, which is probably, it's been about 7 or 8 years, which if you keep track of guys like Edge and Daniel Bryan and stuff, Daniel Bryan a little bit sooner, but like these guys that are getting cleared after the fact, this is around the time frame that it's been happening now. So like I've enjoyed Corey on commentating way more than I ever thought I would. He definitely has more, other than Pat McAfee, because that dude's just like a charisma machine. He brings the show to life more than anyone else that they have. Mm-hmm. Do you have any interest in seeing him get back in the ring? Have you seen him wrestle in the first place? Because it's been a long time.
I've seen him wrestle when he was with NXT, just a little bit highlights of it. Wasn't a big NXT guy back then. Yeah. When it was this is, I think, right, he came in right after it was like the whole competition type thing, right? Yeah, he was one of the first debut guys. Yeah. It was him, Enzo and Cass, they like guys like Mason Ryan and like Jinder Mahal was still on the show when he debuted, for sure. The Wyatt family was still there. I wasn't a big fan of it back then, but then also like Pac was there with him because they won a title together. Yep, they're tag team champions. Yep. Yeah, and I guess he was with FCW as well. Yeah, he was back. He was the first. I think he had said it was him and someone. I think Big E and Corey Graves were the first signings when FCW became a thing. And that's why they've been close friends ever since, because they basically like lived together because they were the first 2 new people in this signing. So I was kind of out of wrestling for a little bit. Billy had us go to he said, hey, there's an NXT show, and I knew it from the like game show version. I was still watching that. So there's an NXT house show in Daytona, so it was 20 minutes away, and it was Bo Dallas and Sami Zayn in the main event with the special referee of Billy Gunn for some strange reason. No idea why. To this day, don't know why. Corey Graves was on the show. Paige was on the show. Xavier Woods was on the show. Then we started going to the tapings and stuff in Orlando. And Corey Graves, I was always mesmerized by his character. His theme music was awesome. If you even played he made a couple of the video games even after he wasn't wrestling anymore. But the style they gave him to work, he was like a submission guy. His finisher was some sort of leg lock. And because of that, he was extremely boring to watch in the ring. I'm not saying that Corey Graves is a bad wrestler, but the version that I saw probably 10 times in person, I think when they teamed him with Pac, it was a way to like zen that out. Like, Pac can do all this crazy stuff and you can come in and do the basics. If he comes back, I hope he gets to do a little more than they were having. Granted, he was still a trainee in a way back then, even though he hasn't been actively working out. Like, he's 15 years in the business at the table. So like at the time, if you would have asked me one word to describe Corey Graves, I would have picked boring. And I hope that's not the case anymore. So if he does get in the ring, maybe he's a surprise guy in the Rumble we were going to talk about in a minute. That would be, even if he comes in from the desk and like rips the, Superman's off the tux and he's got his wrestling gear on, like I'd be cool with that. Give him like 5-8 minutes in there just to get his feet wet. I'd be cool with that. So like the Corey Graves that I remember was pretty boring. And I hope that's not the Corey Graves we get if this rumor is true. Oh yeah, man. I'm happy for him that he's able to like go back into the ring if he wanted to. Yeah. If the rumors are true, and I want to see what he could do. Yeah, I hope he keeps his theme song too. By the way, I forget the name of it, but yeah, it's I know all the lyrics in my head, but I don't know what they actually were calling it at the time. But definitely, at least in the beginning, hope he keeps that song for sure. I'm pretty sure it was done by the CFO $ band that they don't work with anymore. So I don't know. I mean, they'd have the rights to it still, I would imagine, or if another band like does a cover of the same song, that would be pretty cool. But talking about surprise Royal Rumble entries, some good news that we came out, some kind of groundbreaking news. WWE for the first time that I can recall
really taking advantage of that forbidden door. Mickie James, Impact Knockouts World Champion, who defended it Hard to Kill, like we were talking about earlier, is going to be in the Royal Rumble. And, part of this we can't ignore is because I don't know if they have 30 contracted women's wrestlers right now. If they do, it's literally everybody they have. And, this is nothing new. They like to have people show up. They'll, Trish Stratus, your Lita, your Tori Wilsons at times, Beth Phoenix, who I don't see why she wouldn't be in there now because she's back wrestling on some regularity. This was really cool to see. They mentioned that she's the Impact World Champion, and a lot of people might not realize this, but Nikki's actually an NWA talent who has the Impact World title, who will now be at a WWE event. So that's 3 promotions somewhat working together, helping making the world go round. This was really cool. There's no other way to say it. I'm excited for this. I don't know that, she's not necessarily going to win or anything, but like the fact that they made it a big deal, I think is really cool. I'm really excited for her and what this could mean moving forward. They're softening their stance on this stuff. This is good news.
I'm happy for it too. The only thing I would say is I wish they just waited, like make it be a surprise. If it was a surprise, I'll be more shocked. But I mean, I'm still happy for it because Mickie James is one of the best of all time in WWE. And I love the fact that Pat McAfee basically put over Impact.
They weren't going to let anybody else do it, so might as well. So I agree with you that, they could have kept it a secret, but I will actually say they might have done it right because by saying kind of all bets are off, you never know who's going to show up, and now someone else can be the surprise. Like Mickie James gets you in the door, and then something else could happen too. So like, yes, it would have been cool if she just showed up, but like then the eyes aren't like if you weren't going to watch it before, you're not watching it when it happens. So there were like. We're going to bait you with this, and then hopefully they don't like rest on their laurels from there. They give you, we already know Lita's going to show up, maybe a Trish Stratus. Like, I don't know who else they could pick to be another surprise, but I think you stick one more surprise in there and you're doing good.
Well, apparently there's only 19. They announced 19 women so far. Okay. So there's 11 more. And we already know Bianca's going to be in it, and Liv Morgan's going to be in it because they lost the chance to go to the Royal Rumble to go against Becky Lynch. Gotcha. So that's 21 right there. So you got 9
more to fill. Yeah.
You're probably going to get some couple NXT people like Raquel, Dakota. I won't be surprised if Casey's in there. Casey again is kind of zero. I won't be surprised she's in there. And probably Alita, or not probably Alita's already in.
Yeah,
probably
maybe like a Gail Kim even. I can see that.
I don't know if she's on good terms with them, but I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, Mickey got her stuff sent to her in a trash bag, so if they can make.
But they fired the guy right after when they found out.
Yeah, that's true. So I do think this is part of making amends, and it's not like she's not a big name. Like as far as women's wrestlers go, like I said, she basically produced an entire all women's show through the NWA, and she's the Impact World Champion. You just main evented a pay-per-view, in Texas Deathmatch. So she's definitely still doing great things. Before we get out of here, we mentioned the surprise and the forbidden door that WWE has just realized is there. 2 questions. I'll start with this. Vince always has to have these like euphemisms. You can't call it a title shot. You got to call it a championship opportunity. It's not a hospital. It's a medical center. What is the Vince-ism for the forbidden door?
Shit,
like the restricted, I don't know, something. But like, they're not going to use that term. They're going to have to call it something else. I know that for a fact. And we haven't done a top 3 in a while. So we'll just throw a quick out there. We'll go with the men's rumble, since we just kind of covered the women's rumble. If they're going to go all out with this, who are 3 reasonable people you would want to see show up in the men's rumble?
All right. I'm going to let you know now. There's no AEW people on there.
No, of course not. No.
I have no AEW people on this list.
Nope.
I got Moose. I would love to see Moose there. Jonathan Gresham.
Nice.
And I have a feeling he's going to be here. He's been everywhere. Matt Cardona.
Matt Cardona would be interesting if they call him Matt Cardona. That'd be my biggest thing. But that's I should have thought of him, and I don't know why I didn't. I agree. There won't be any AEW people, but if there was, it'd be the Big Show.
Yeah, Big or Chris Jericho. I could see them either one.
Jericho for sure. Mark Henry, I would throw in. It would be the three that they're allowed to talk to or whatever. It's not going to be.
I wouldn't be surprised if a Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson was there, just because he left in good terms as well.
That's true. So the other people, this isn't even as big a deal anymore, but I just love seeing him every time. I want the Hurricane again. To show up again. Just want him to show up. Some variation of Farouk or Bradshaw, I think, is another one. I think that, JBL would be funny to see, and everybody loves to see, Farouk come out. Damn, Ron Simmons, first Black World Champion, yada, yada. They give you the spiel every time, That would be great. And then number one, and this would mean a little more if he had the belt that's over my shoulder right now, but you already got Mickey James there. Why don't you bring in Mr. Mickey James and let the national treasure, Nick Aldis, show up?
That would be dope.
And honestly, if they knew that this was even a possibility, they would have had Nick either win the title back from Trevor Murdoch or do something.
Just to get that buzz out.
Because he would come out with the belt too. That would be the crazy, that would be something we have not seen on WWE TV since I think Dan Severn held it in '99. That would have been the last time that belt was on WWE TV.
I would have loved to see Nikki come out with the Impact Championship.
I'm really shocked to see if she will or not. That'll be cool. I mean, if she does, it's because she's gonna ask for forgiveness, not permission. I think she's smart enough to know. And what are they gonna do when she's out there? What are they gonna So
they're gonna pull her right out. Nah, bro, she's already in the match.
Yeah, and no, the Matt Cardona one, the Kurt Hawkins could be interesting for sure. I don't think we'd get someone like the Good Brothers. I'm curious. I don't think they're gonna want people that have been there super, if they've been a part of this cutomania of wrestlers. I don't think they're gonna pick those guys necessarily. That would I mean, it's not gonna be anyone that was cut recently, but I think you're on the right track with some of yours. Jonathan Gresham would be great for sure. It's not gonna be any of the LA Knight, maybe I could see getting a shot in there now that he's back or whatever. But yeah, Nick, the only one that really comes to mind for me is someone like Nick Aldis for sure. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up as we get closer to the Royal Rumble season. So next week, we are going to unveil the Royal Rumble game that we've been playing in my house for about 10 years now. So you can get together with friends, or you can do it virtually. There is a version of this you can still do virtually. So until then, we're out of here, guys. Next week, episode 40. It's the Royal Rumble preview. A lot going on. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and we'll see you next time.